So, Ryan, let's move on to the defense. Those are
Mm-hmm.
always hard transitions to make, you know,
Yes.
when like real life kicks you in the face a little bit. But you know, that's the fight that I know we're going to see from Irish One. But let's transition to the defense here for these keys to victory, Ryan. I think the biggest one is we are going to get a little bit simple here. And the first key is dominate up front.
Yes.
Dominate up front in the run game, dominate up front in the pass game. The reality is Jack Plummer, if he is sitting in the pocket, comfortable with time to throw, he has a big time arm and he will hurt you. And they have speed on the perimeter. They have some cats that can make plays. At running back, as Ryan has said multiple times this week, Jade Knott, their freshman running back. It's amazing that Cal has freshmen smart enough to play early on and be successful. I wish Notre Dame could recruit some guys like that. I say sarcastically.
Well, I mean, Cal's a great academic institution, and Notre Dame isn't, right?
Right.
So,
Notre Dame's getting kids that can barely read and write, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
You know, I say incredibly sarcastically. But, you know, sorry, I had to throw that saltiness out there. But there, you know, Jade Knott is a weapon in the pass game. He's going to present a threat. Their tight end, Latu, is a kid that is a threat in the pass game. And we've talked about their receivers a lot. All three of their starting receivers are weapons. And they have another kid, Monroe Young, I think, comes off the bench. And he has made some plays this year, too. So they've got weapons. Where they are not good is in the trenches. They are much more athletic on the perimeter at running back than Marshall was.
Mm-hmm.
They are not as good in the trenches as Marshall was, and you need to dominate that. So the combination of them not being good there and you need to play better, and a breakout game is needed from this defensive line. If the defensive line doesn't have a breakout game now, I got to start asking major questions about what Al Washington is doing, because you're now 3 games in. You can chalk the first game up to, you know, Ohio State had really long, talented offensive tackles, which, you know, one of them is. The other one I'm still not sold on.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marshall had really long, well-coached offensive tackles. Okay, sure. There's no excuse in this one because they're not long, they're not athletic, they're not good. Like, Cal doesn't have a single offensive lineman that I would consider good. Okay. You know, their center's okay. You know, one of their tackles would be good if he was a guard, as you mentioned yesterday. If their left tackle was playing guard, he'd be good, but he's not a good left tackle. There's no excuse not to dominate in the trenches. And also, it's very important because you cannot let this – because if Cal has early success moving the ball, it is going to boost their – because, look, Notre Dame is a wounded animal right now, and no one's afraid of them right now. And if Cal comes in here and hits a couple shots and moves the ball, gets some early points on the board, their confidence skyrockets, and then Notre Dame's plummets. And you can't allow that to happen. And it's harder to get a guy out of rhythm once he's in it than it is to just get him out of rhythm early. Once a guy gets into a role, it can be challenging to get him out of that. You can't let Jack Plummer get into that role. So to me, that's the biggest thing is you've got to dominate up front. That everything else that we're going to talk about is built on dominating up front.
On paper, it's your biggest advantage in this football game is that your defensive line is a lot better than your offensive line in theory, right? We had to take theory and have to make it practical. Like, that's the biggest thing from your defensive perspective. I'll say this, Brian, with how the defensive line has played the first 2 weeks, we talked all preseason about there's going to be a lot of probably offensive lines that are going to slide protection to Isaiah Foskey and get some double teams on him occasionally. I think that they're going to look at this defensive line and say, like, hey, no one's killing it right now. So, like, we can do some one-on-one blocking, and I think that Isaiah Foskey is going to have a chance to go one-on-one with some of these tackles. I think Jason Ambaloa is going to have a chance to get one-on-one against some of these guards, and they need to capitalize, man. Point blank. This is the most point blank it'll ever be. They are better football players than what Cal is trotting out there at offensive line. Your good players need to be good football players and need to be dominant football players in this game because that is your biggest advantage. And when you have an advantage, you need to take it. You need to capitalize on it. Like, that is all it comes down to in this game. You have the chance to physically dominate this team and physically dominate in getting pressure on Jack Plummer, making him uncomfortable, getting him on the ground, forcing bad incompletions and bad decisions, and the run game, right? I mean, they've number 28. That's an okay little runner, but Jay Knott's the guy, in my opinion. That's the guy that scares
He's their hammer kind of guy, right?
Yes. Right. Yeah, he's the bigger back.
Jay Knott's more, right? I think it's who that is.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
He's technically their starter.
Technically, yeah.
But he's not their leading ball carrier.
If you watch the UNLV game or the game before, he starts the game and then Jay Knott comes in and finishes.
Which is, hey, that's kind of a smart way to handle a freshman, right? Don't put all the pressure on of starting him, but, maybe start somebody else, but then build him into it and get him some reps, get him some touches. Imagine that. Imagine that's crazy philosophy.
I didn't know that was allowed. I thought it was outlawed around these parts, but for me, that's the biggest thing though, is that their offensive line is not good. And if Cal wins the football game, it won't change the fact that their offensive line is not good. I mean, it's not, right? And if Notre Dame is as good as we think they can be on the defensive line, we've been talking all offseason about how Isaiah Foskey could be a first-round pick. Jason Ademilola might be one of the most underrated players in all of college football from the defensive tackle position. They haven't played like it right now. They haven't. This is the game where you come out and you say, I have pride, and I'm going to make some plays because I am super talented, but I haven't shown it the first 2 weeks. Let's get it, guys. Let's get it.
I almost just kicked BK 99 Props BK one out. I almost kicked him out, Ryan. He said he got me. He got me good. He started off with school is too hard at Notre Dame for freshmen, and freshmen have to adjust. And then he said, unlike at Cal Berkeley.
Yes.
That's when I started to lose it. And then he said sarcastically, so you saved yourself, my friend. But as far as that's the old excuse that we've heard from past years, which you can't really use when you're playing a team that, a school like Cal Berkeley, and they have freshmen playing. For that.
Here's another good one for you. 99 Problems also said, patience. We have to build trust. Meriwether will play in a couple years.
Yeah. And then they'll complain about how he doesn't have a lot of experience, anyway, we'll see how that one goes. Ryan, I think defensively too, there's more than just the D-line, I think, making plays. I think they have to protect against the deep ball. I think this is a Cal team that you want to try to go on drives because they will make mistakes. They'll drop a ball. They're a young receiving core all around. They'll make mistakes. They'll run a bad route. You'll eventually beat the line. Protecting against the big plays is huge. You cannot let them get big plays. You can't let Sturdivant get over the top and beat you. Now, I'm not saying play 8 yards off and just let them nickel and dime you up and down the field. I would like to see them kind of take away some of the quick stuff in different ways, but you also don't want to just come up and play cover one and expose your corners to just a bunch of deep shots by J. Michael Sturdivant and Jeremiah Hunter, right?
Yes.
So especially Sturdivant, who can fly, and he's long. He's like 6'2" plus.
Yep.
So you have to be careful. They are different than Marshall. Last week it should have been come up, take everything quick away. Here it's a little bit different. You need to make sure you're not just exposing them to shot after shot after shot, because Plummer has a cannon, unlike the kid from last week. And he took 2 bomb shots on the first drive against UNLV last week.
Sure did.
And missed on one and then hit on the next one, and the second one was, that was a good the coverage on the second one that they completed was better than the one that he missed. The one that he missed, Sturdivant was open.
Yeah, that was Hunter like fading to the sideline, right? Over the shoulder.
He just dropped it over his outside shoulder, like inside the 5-yard line. Just dimed it.
That was a great throw, man. It was a great throw.
And then he missed a wide open Sturdivant on the first one, right?
To your point, it was like the third play of the game. Sturdivant put that kid in the blender, man. Like it was over with. Like he had 5 yards.
There was no move. He just ran right by him.
He's very fast, and he showed his speed off there. And that's been my biggest worry this whole week, Brian, is that hey, man, that J. Michael Sturdivant kid, that kid can run, man. Like that kid can run. I know Notre Dame's got some defensive backs that can run too. Like Cam Hart can run. Right. But that kid is moving.
You don't just keep putting him in those looks over and over and over with no help.
Because it's offensive advantage if we're going one-on-one, right? Generally speaking.
And you need to be able to use your secondary to protect against the deep ball, and you need to be able to trust your box to dominate the ground attack. If you can't, then you're in big trouble. And if you can't stop Cal's run game with your box, Ryan, this is going to be a long year. Long year. And
to your earlier points, if Cal is creating some explosive plays, like some deep shots to Hunter or Sturdivant, that also tells me that our key number one is not working too well, and they're probably not getting a ton of pressure on the quarterback, right? So those things are intertwined. They go hand in hand, right? Pressure, good coverage, that all comes hand in hand with stopping the deep ball like that.
Yep. No doubt. And so those are going to be interesting aspects of what we see defensively. And then, of course, just play smart. Don't have the dumb mistakes like, a guy's trying to double pass and then you all lose contain and he just runs it for 40 yards, just dumb thing. Like there were so many, just not say dumb, that's disrespectful, but just so many just
Silly
things you can't do when you're at Notre Dame,
Yeah.
just mistakes you can't make when you're a junior or a senior. Those things have to get fixed, in my opinion. And so that's going to be a big aspect of this, in my opinion, for the Notre Dame.
You're already not playing well. You're already not playing well, and you're playing against a decent football team. So, like, don't shoot yourself in the foot. Don't make it harder on yourselves. Like, you're already not playing good football right now. You need to reverse the tides, and you don't want to have to play Cal and also against yourselves, right? Like, that's going to be a hard battle to win, right? Like, you want to just be able to play Cal. So don't shoot yourselves in the foot. Keep it clean, because at the end of the day, if you keep it clean and you're making plays, you're more talented than the other team, right? So if you're a clean football team, you're probably going to win the game more than likely, but we haven't seen that yet. So we need to see it in this one.
Yep, absolutely. Ryan, and special teams, it's going to be the same thing as it is every week. Like I never am going to ask this, but hey guys, you guys need to return one for 6 this week. Like if you're begging for that from your special teams, then you've got problems. It's simple. Win the field position battle. Don't make mistakes. Right? Do your job. Don't make mistakes. Right? That's going to be the key for the special teams this week. Don't leave points on the board. If you get a chance to get points, get points. Now, if you're returning the ball and you got a chance to do something with it. That's how you help with field position. What I'm saying is I'm not going out there saying, hey, block a punt, return it, take a kickback for a score. I'm not going to say that has to happen. If that has to happen to beat Cal, this team has major problems. But don't give Cal points, and then don't take away points from your team. That's really the key on special teams for this game.
That's always the key, man. Like keep it clean. Like that's one positive that's come out of the first 2 games is Notre Dame's been pretty good on special teams. I mean, outside of their
kick return
unit,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like their kick return unit was bad against Ohio State, but otherwise, I mean, they're making their kicks. They're pretty solid from a punting perspective. Their coverage units have been pretty good as well. So it's just about staying clean, man, and being consistent. And so far, Coach Mason's team Coach Mason's unit, I should say, has been pretty solid. They even had a block punt last game. So